Totem Spirits and the gifts they bring to us all. I have lived a blessed life. I could list dozens of instances when, through magical coincidence, I've been exactly at the right place at the right time. I'm sure you've had similar experiences. Years ago in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, as a young reporter, I seemingly arrived at a location far too early. And yet, sitting on a bench waiting for me was an old man who was later to become my teacher and a guiding light. This man was a Blackfoot medicine man. His name was Medicine Bear. He was a Blackfoot elder, teacher, and guide who set me on a whole new journey. I've written about this extensively in my book series on the Shaman's Door, but this book in particular is called Wolf Trail, and it is named after the guiding spirit of the wolf, because although I didn't know it at the time, I certainly didn't understand it. It was the wolf that guided me on the personal journey along the wolf path, the path of learning, to a whole new life experience guided by the spirits of the wolves. Of course, I had no idea that the journey had even begun, let alone what the medicine of the wolf or spirit keeper was. It is often called the totem of the inner journey because on the medicine wheel, the other wolf, the coyote, he opens the door. And the coyote is called the trickster, but you cannot get to the wolf without the trickster. I want to make it clear that what I offer here and all my offerings comes from my personal experiences, my perspective. I began as a journalist living and working for a newspaper with native indigenous people, mainly in Canada, but also the United States and elsewhere. I interviewed elders. I traveled from one reservation to another at a time when newspapers were truly newspapers. I don't declare myself to be an expert, but I can declare my experiences and the truth that I share with you now. I was very fortunate to be guided by genuine medicine men and women, none of whom charged money, offered paid workshops, certificate courses, or weekend intensives. They gave because it was their medicine to give. Most importantly, they lived in knowing trust that they would be cared for, and they always were. It was an honor for a person to take food to an elder, to leave blankets at the door, to bring meat from the various hunting expeditions and so forth. You honored yourself when you supported your elders, and that's what I saw on the reservation. Therefore, they had no need for money. They had no need to charge anybody. Their duty was to share what they knew with those who needed to know. In those days, we're talking about 40 odd years ago, there were very few non-Indigenous people arriving on the reservations. It was not trendy yet. There had not been the Dances with Wolves movie offered, and therefore I was often the only non-Indigenous person in the circle, quite frequently. And so I experienced reservation life before the wave of popularity turned everything upside down. As a newspaper reporter, I witnessed traditional native people living humble but traditional ways. They happily shared the wisdom to all and anyone who sought them out. I was just one of a few people who arrived with many questions, and in all cases they took me in, gave me coffee, gave me food, and sat me down and listened to my questions with a smile on their face in most cases. One thing I learned very quickly was the totem energy. The Blackfoot and the Cree people, along with most tribal groups, now use the word totem because it has become the standard intertribal word used right across the continent and right across the world. It's even used in Australia. In all cases and in every nation, the word was used to refer to spiritual assistance in general, not just an animal totem. In addition, a totem was a private matter. Every elder I saw or met from various nations discouraged bragging or even general discussions about totems or medicine. Medicine was to be shared by action, by giving, by sharing it that way, not by words or chitter-chatter. Traditionally, young men and women would vision to receive the primary medicine gift of their particular totem. In many cases, the totem would appear in mysterious ways. The totem would appear as a coyote and then transform into another animal. In some cases, the animal would also scratch or bite them, particularly if they were a snake. My grandfather would say they had marked their territory. Vision questers would discuss it with their teacher or medicine person, but never with others in general chit chat. Medicine and totems were gifts and they should be honored. Today, the word totem is used by just about everyone extensively. You can even get an AI generated picture of your personal totem via Facebook, for a fee, of course. Even people who claim to have been trained in North America or have the bloodline heritage misuse and misapply the word. And in so doing, the power of the totem becomes obscure and nebulous. But perhaps that is how spirit totems protect their medicine. The origins of this word are both obscure and evolutionary. The word is traced back to the Ojibwe people, who used it to describe a spirit being, a sacred object, or a symbol that serves as an emblem of a group of people. It was also used within the Anishinaabe clan system, and today this forms part of the huge Cree Nation, which stretches right across Canada. And in most cases, the Cree were the scouts who took new settlers across the country. And this is why so many mountains, rivers, and landmarks have Cree names rather than the names of the indigenous people of that area. Over time, most First Nations adopted the word totem to describe any spiritual helper, as well as to address one another, because in essence, the word means friend or ally. Therefore, I would see my Cree teachers address one another as totem, friend, when they met. They would automatically speak to one another as a friend and an ally. It did not necessarily mean an animal spirit. Today, in modern parlance, it now means a spiritual animal. The deeper wisdom is that the totem may appear as an animal because animals, birds, fishes, etc., are superior spiritually to human beings because they have a closer relationship or alliance with Great Spirit. They come into our lives to guide, gift, and awaken because we're the ones who've forgotten who and what we are. I love listening to the stories from the various native groups describing how each animal totem received their medicine by Great Spirit. In one beautiful story from the Plains people, it declares that a long, long time ago, all the animals in the world, all the people in the world, were actually dragons. One day, Great Spirit arrived, and she declared that they were now ready to leave Mother Earth because Mother Earth was now going to receive the notorious two-legged ones who had already destroyed 3 other worlds. The dragons listened with compassion, and then they asked to remain on Earth so that they could serve the two-legged ones who were very, very lost. Great Spirit agreed, and she gave each dragon a medicine gift, but also the gift of protection against the two-leggeds because Great Spirit knew what they were up against. Each dragon was given a gift of medicine, and the story goes to each particular dragon, which turned into a hummingbird or a sparrow or whatever it was. And at that moment, they were given the gift of flight so that they could fly away from the two-legged ones when needed. All birds are now considered the most powerful totems because of this, because they transformed and they chose to remain to help us. And this is also why their feathers are honored and viewed as a spiritual connection to their particular medicine and communication. The tiniest little dragon was the last to approach Great Spirit, with big doe eyes, asked to serve the highest purpose and to remind the two-leggeds in every moment that Great Spirit watches over them. Great Spirit smiled, and she turned this tiny little dragon into the eagle. And this is why today the eagle is always considered the pathway to Great Spirit and is the most honored bird, of course. The humans are flawed, closed down, guided by darkness. And it's for this reason that every young person went on a vision quest to seek the help of their totem, not to own it, not to brag about it, but to allow it to guide them to higher spiritual truth. The totem gifts or medicine includes the gift of healing, teaching, leadership, and more. The gift would be guided by the totem to be shared with others, usually other members of that community. Again, in all instances, it was not meant to be a business transaction, quite the opposite. The medicine one was one of giving, healing, helping. It was not about getting a business plan together. Totems remind humans that they are spiritual beings of light who have forgotten who, and most importantly, what we are. We get lost in language, chitter chatter, the meaning of words, the word within the word, the left side of the brain, nutting things out, explaining, owning, supporting the lie of identity with more falseness. This is why native national people did not chitter chatter about medicine, because to do so would dishonor the alliance and cause the communication to break down. Totems do not speak in words. Mr. Wolf doesn't come and introduce himself and give you his business card. They don't give you concepts, they don't give you ideas. They arrive to awaken, empower wordlessly you with pure essence, intuitive knowing, and the harmony of left and right sections of your brain working in concert with the light. This balanced brain, this balanced knowing, awakens the third eye, as we call it, into purity. Totems remind us of what we've forgotten, and in that remembering, we can become whole. But we cannot do so if we view everything through the lens of exploitation, whether it's formulating workshops, certificate courses, and that famous word accreditation, as if a pretty piece of paper means anything. That cuts down the connection, that blocks it. It's all about giving and allowing. I learned so much on the reservations, which is why I've got so many books about it. But most importantly, I unlearned even more. I learned that what true elders called show ponies were people who were false, dressed up to the nines with feathers and beads. They came in all the right regalia, but they were empty vessels. I learned it was always the humble old bloke or lady sitting quietly in the corner, watching everything. That was the person that had the medicine. That's where I needed to go to ask my questions. I learned and saw coyote medicine in action. This is teaching by trickery. The coyote is honorable. He comes to see if you've really got it or if you take yourself far too seriously. Coyote is the guardian. He is the grandfather. In fact, he stands at the door of learning. You can't get into learning without passing by Mr. Coyote. Yet so many people become upset with coyote in the West. They think it's a nasty thing to trick somebody. But you can't be tricked if you know who and what you are. That is the gift of the coyote. He is always kind, loving, because ultimately some folks just have to be tricked back to walking the good red road and getting their act together. Yes, there are totems. Yes, you do have totems. But they're everywhere. They're with you and all around you 24/7, as we say these days. But they do not come to soothe your ego or give you yet another concept about yourself so you can introduce yourself to people and change your name to Wild Wolf Woman or something. They come to undo all of that. They come to allow you to find your hidden pearl within all the nonsense and all the stories. Totems are a gift. They are a major teacher gifting you with medicine to serve. But they are also a constant flow of varied, momentary gifts if you have eyes to see them. Every little bird that flies past you is your totem. Every little dog has an inner wolf who sees you, and you will see that reflected in that little dog's eyes. They are around you all the time, not just in some special deck of cards or bestowed by a real Indian. They remind you of the wholeness of your being, which is life itself, in all forms, all expressions, and in all loving knowingness. Their gift is to restore you to the sanity you left so long ago, when you first believed you were a human, living in a decaying body that's aging and getting sick all the time, living in a body that's seeking happiness where it can never be found. That's what the totem comes to give you. The ways of the totem. My teachers would remind me over and over again that the universe, Mother Earth and Father Sky, are always speaking to you. Their messages and guidance comes through the passing totems. You do not need a book to look them up, nor do you need to Google them. Allow their messages to arise or awaken within you. Ask for the guidance directly, intuitively, and knowingly in the now present moment. A true and awakened medicine person has no outer authority. Let that sink in. He or she is a maverick, the true definition of a sovereign person. It has nothing to do with the law. It has all to do with your connection. All guidance comes directly, not by some tarot card reader or some medium talking to a dead grandmother. Medicine keepers know that life is constant. There are no dead. They speak to life, and life answers, perhaps with a little thorn-billed bird dancing on a tree, perhaps with a little black and white dog. Ask them for the message. You will hear them. Then you are flowing in the magic. You are becoming medicine, and not some dull, earthly, disconnected sign giver. These are all dead-end streets. You know that. Awaken it within. You are life, and your spirit totems of all degree are around you in every moment, in a pulsating light of intuitive knowing. When you process that as a limited human doing, adding to your little me story, which is so unique, and assigning your personal meanings, which always aggrandize you, with a little I was told by some authority, you remain unknowing and thereby lost to yourself. When you can bend your knee and honor those pure spirits that come with your medicine and walk the way of medicine, your healed inner knowing awakens within, effortlessly. So much energy is expended in remaining, bolstering, supporting, and embroidering the limited story of me, self, that does not and never will exist. Our limited lives, when written as a silly novel, are, as Shakespeare says in Macbeth, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. You are not nothing, but until you allow your totems to show you the way home, you remain lost in the story of me, and of course sounding like an idiot. Return to the magic of truth by remaining alert and in present time, with the knowing that you do not know. Once you know you do not know, you open the door. That unknowing opens the door to the totems who may present as a little bird, a dog called Bear, or simply a shimmering silver cloud in the shape of a snake, or perhaps a monkey, or perhaps both. The message is always the same. Come back to us, little wanderer, for we have gifts of medicine. My journey is different from yours, but every journey is magical the minute you get off the silly roller coaster of ego, self-aggrandizement, where dubious experts with delightful accents or the right blood ancestry tell you that they are the authority. Your inner compass is your authority, because only your sovereign inner being, your inner maverick, finds the pathway home. While the rest of them are wallpaper in the bathroom with all their weekend intensive accreditation diplomas, the maverick sits on a hill, looks at a cloud, hears the songs of the birds, and knows, I am already home. Blessed be.